man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, we're going to talk about all the things that are wrong or went wrong with my S550 2015 to 2017 Mustang. This one happens to be a 2016, but basically everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So I can give you some things of what to expect with your new to you 150,000 mile S550 Mustang GT. Welcome to Man Time. Yeah, so we'll just hang out, grab yourself a drink, and we'll talk about all the things that went wrong or were wrong with this S550 that I got dirt cheap, fresh trade-in at the dealership. Oh man, good stuff. So anyways, I got this car for under $15,000, and this car, if I would have got it a year ago, it would have been closer to $20,000, but the price has come down substantially on these. Trade-in value has come way down. Average retail price coming down from over or around $25,000 to $20,000 and below. And if you can get something that was freshly traded in, those are going for $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 depending on mileage. But trying to find one of these that's 10 years old, that's under 100,000 miles, is becoming harder and harder, and that's why the price is coming down and down. And the reason for that is a lot of the parts reach the end of their service life at between 130 to 150,000 miles. So I'm going to go through all those parts on here. First, I'll give you a little history on the car. This was a one-owner car. It was a accident-free car. It was a car that was driven, as a daily driver, right? Annual mileage on it was about 15,000 over 10 years. Makes it just over 150,000. And that's what it has on it. But I got the car, I drove it home, and it was in bad shape. The front end was shaking and bouncing, and so that's the first thing. Looking at the service life of the car, it was serviced at the dealer its entire life through its 100,000 mile warranty, and then a few times afterwards for oil changes and things like that. The owner then, he got a new set of tires at around 50,000, a new set of tires at around 100,000. So I got the car with a set of tires that were 50,000 miles old. That was the main problem with both the shaking, well, the bouncing anyway. The shaking, and there was some like kind of knocking or wobbling while braking. I thought it was the brakes. Turned out it was a control arm. Instead of having like a traditional A-arm suspension setup on here, it is more like a 3-link suspension on either side, where it's just got control arms coming and attaching, to your rotor and your hub. So there was front control arms that the bushings were worn out, and it was kind of sloppy. So I ended up having to replace those and replace the tires, and then driving it around some more. That fixed all of like the wobbling and the really not driving right issues that it was having. I then noticed a wet spot underneath of the clutch pedal, and also the e-brake wasn't working. So the next round of maintenance that I did on this thing was getting it jacked up in the air like this, getting the tires off of it, having to pull the exhaust out of it after disassembling the center console, trying to figure out why the e-brake wasn't working, pulling the seat out, getting a new clutch master cylinder, and installing that. And then I found behind the resonator, the e-brake cable was broke right at the swedged barrel fitting. The cable had just pulled out of there. So that's why the e-brake wasn't working. The cable was snapped right there at the barrel fitting. That was about a $60 part. There's 3 different e-brake cables, one going from the lever back to a T, and then from that T you got 2 going to each caliper. So while I was in there, while I had the exhaust down, while I had it up on jack stands, I decided to do both brakes and suspension. I went with the Power Stop brakes, you can see there, and then you might be able to see some new-ish red coils in there. I've been driving on it a little bit, but I went with a full suspension setup from Petters. Petters is, or was, Australian-made suspension. This suspension came with a big PRC sticker on it. You know, it doesn't say made in China anymore. Now it's PRC. You got to really be paying attention. But Petter stuff, like, so the thing with this suspension kit, it came with front struts, you know, loaded with springs, rear springs, rear shocks, and sway bars. That kit from Petters, it was back ordered, and so I found a website that had it in stock, but for like $300 cheaper, you get the package deal. Maybe it was $200 cheaper. You get the package deal rather than buying the struts and shocks and springs and sway bars separately. You could save about $200 doing it that way. So I ended up ordering that. The company said, well, it's out of stock. You know, we've got to order it from the company. And then they were like, well, they're out of stock and they're raising their prices. So it was going from like $1,500 to $2,000. And they said, well, we've got the suspension kit and the sway bars, you know, separately, and we can charge you an extra $100, knock $100 off that kit. And so I called around to a couple different places. The places to get your S550 parts are going to be, the best ones that I've dealt with are CJ Pony Parts, American Muscle, and one other one. And then Ford, of course, now Ford has a pretty good online parts where you're ordering it kind of from the dealership in your area and they're just shipping it directly to your door. I think for the most part free of charge, free of shipping. So that's where I had to order the Brake Master cylinder. Let's just talk about that for just a second. The Brake Master cylinder is all enclosed on the pedal. The only thing that's coming outside of the car is a rubber line that's going to tie into your Brake Master reservoir. And to do that job, you need to pull the seat out. Like, first thing is pull the seat out and just get ready to be on your back. But with a really tiny wrench, I think a T25 and like a 5mm, I want to say, you're able to actually unbolt the master cylinder from the pedal assembly. You know, hold on to the pedal assembly, pull it off of there, and then you can disconnect the hose going to the Brake Master, and then there's another cable, of course, going down to your clutch slave cylinder. Disconnect both those, replace it out inside the car. It actually was not that bad of a job. Similarly, the brake, e-brake cable was not that bad of a job once I had the exhaust out of it, and the exhaust was kind of a pain. Another thing that went wrong with it was one of the exhaust hangers had kind of rusted off or broken off, so I had to weld on a new exhaust hanger. The suspension was dead, the brake pads were shot. All of this stuff was, you know, service that was not enclosed on the Carfax because it had never been done. I mean, this car was good and everything tested good for $150,000. The guy sold it. He must have taken it to a shop and said, you know, or the shop must have told him, you know, it's a 150,000 mile car. You're going to need plugs. You're going to need suspension. You're going to need a new clutch master cylinder. All the shaking and wobbling. You're going to need new tires. You're going to need new front control arms. And that was just too much for somebody to kind of take in. So I ended up doing all that. Total cost on it. Brakes were about $500 for the complete set of the Power Stop brakes. Again, the suspension was about $1,500, so there's $2,000. another 200 bucks in the clutch master and e-brake cable, another 1,000 in tires, and then another 800 bucks in control arms. So, there's the total cost, and in addition to the clutch is slipping, and I could smell clutch at high RPM pulls and revving it out past 5,000. Gear changing up through redline, it was slipping, throwing a check engine code, random misfire, and it was the clutch slipping, but I replaced all the plugs, so I knew it wasn't that. One more thing that is also wrong with it is the, let's see here, brakes, suspension, clutch. The steering wheel clock spring, or the airbag clock spring. So you basically have to take off your airbag, take off your steering wheel, and then behind that is a clock spring. It's throwing the code of service ABS advanced track, and basically it's not allowing the traction control and stability control to work because it can't pick up the angle of the steering wheel, right? That all kind of works around the angle of the steering wheel. If you're taking a corner and you start to slip or start to lose traction, it's going to break, individual tires to get it back. But if it doesn't know which way you're steering the car, it can't do that. So that was another $70 part. And while I'm going to do that, I'm going to do a new steering wheel. Since I'm in there, sitting and baking in the Texas sun, the steering wheel is starting to kind of break down. I think it's a leather steering wheel, and of course all on the top, it's starting to just kind of fall apart. So while I'm in there, I'm going to do that. You can go through and add up all the cost of all that stuff, but the long and short of it is it's around $5,000 to just for the parts to fix kind of all of the maintenance items that need to be done on this, and then get it back up to a serviced level where it's going to run trouble-free. Additionally, there's some other things I'm going to do, which is going to be replace the serpentine belt. That's never been done. While I'm doing that, I'm going to do the water pump and a new serpentine tensioner. All that stuff is service life of 150,000 miles. Go figure, right? So I'm going to get in there and do all that. If you're interested in seeing any of those videos, I've got an Exidy 600 clutch sitting here, a McLeod lightened flywheel, new throwout bearing, new pilot bushing, and I'm going to be installing all that stuff. That's why it's up on jack stands now. Third round of maintenance going on. Additionally, the speakers are blown out. So I'm going to need to do new speakers on it as well. But if you'd like to see any of that stuff down there in the comments, what are you working on? What problems have you had with your S550 Mustang that's 10 years old, 150,000 miles? Is it those same things? Is it more things? Down there in the comments. If you like this type of stuff, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see some of the work being done to this, let me know down there. Anyways, get out there, have you some man time too.